What's up, guys? Today I'm super excited. North County Riverside Indian dealership has their demo day. So I get an opportunity to check out the Indian Chief Sport. And today I want to compare how does the Chief Sport stack up to my Indian Scout Rogue. So this is one of the bikes I came here for, the Indian Sport Chief. It puts out 120 foot-pounds of torque, which is much more significant than the Indian Scout Rogue, which only puts out about 72 foot-pounds of torque. However, the horsepower, it puts out 79 horsepower as opposed to the Rogue that puts out 100 horsepower. It's 1890 cc. The Rogue is about 1133 cc, I believe, close to that. So it's going to be interesting riding this bike. I know the torque is going to be much more significant, but it should be a fun ride. All right, so I'm up next, about time. Now, just sitting on the Indian Chief Sport, I do notice that in terms of comfortability, the Indian Scout Rogue does have a more comfortable seat. This has a great seat, don't get me wrong. I can tell just with that back support, it's going to be great with the more torquier bike, kind of hold you in place, but there's not a lot of cushion in the seat. It's pretty flat and hard, to be honest. As far as the seating position, it feels fine. These are more mid controls. This little 4-inch riser, it feels comfortable. It's not bad. So I'm fine with the seating position on this bike. Like I said, the seat is just kind of flat, and if I'm going to be driving this daily or taking on longer trips, this is something I would definitely change out first. Now, I was pretty surprised to find out this bike is only 1 inch longer than the Rogue, which is practically, that's the same length. However, it is significantly wider than the Rogue, so when you're sitting on the seat, your legs are going to be spread a little more open on this bike, but it still does feel comfortable. No problem with the comfortability on this bike yet. It's also about 130 pounds heavier. Now, as soon as we get up here and make a turn and we start going straight a bit, I am going to move this into sport mode to see what the hype is about and get a chance to have that experience. All right, now I'm gonna, there we go, get this in sport mode, and yeah, instantly I can tell the throttle response is gonna be a lot different. Yeah, this is definitely a different motorcycle in sport mode. Now, I've seen a few reviews on this bike, so I know you don't have to use too much throttle to get this bike going. Just a tiny flick of the wrist and I got up to 60 pretty easily. The demo leader said I can't pass anyone, so we're kind of staggered. So there is only so much I can do, but I can definitely tell that this bike has some serious torque. I would love to get this bike on the freeway so I can really test out the power and also this front windshield fairing. Honestly, I don't think it's going to provide much more wind protection than what's on the Rogue. It looks like it's about the same height compared to how I sit on the bike. So I'm 5'11", weigh about 190 pounds. It doesn't feel like it's going to block too much wind off of top of my chest and helmet for me personally. By the way, that boom sound you hear, that's me playing around with the throttle. This bike sounds really good when you ease on the throttle quite a bit. It has a nice deep sound to it, like some aftermarket slip-ons on this bike would be an absolute beast of a sound. The suspension on the bike feels good. The Fox shocks are definitely doing their job. With that brand, we already know it's going to have a nice, comfortable ride to it. Just went over some train tracks and they definitely did the job. I'm going to go ahead and move this back into standard mode. Not touring. Touring, I feel like that's going to be a waste of my time. I just kind of want to get that comparison again by going back into standard mode just to feel what this bike is like on a normal ride. I don't know about how I feel about this gauge cluster as well. This infotainment screen is nice. I know it has a lot of great features, but it can be a little distracting for someone who's not used to having a digital display that you can operate with your finger. Yeah, in standard mode, it definitely holds back a lot of that torque. Honestly, it doesn't feel too much different than the Rogue when it's in standard riding mode. So it looks like we're pulling into the parking lot. That was a fun little demo ride. Got to go through some tiny twisties, if that's what you want to call it, through some of the back streets here. Overall, it was fun. I think I need to gather my thoughts and figure out how I really felt about this ride. I don't think it was a letdown. I just think I need more time to process it, maybe a little more time to actually take this bike out and do a real test ride on it. But it was fun, definitely fun. I think anytime you get a new bike, it's like having a whole new relationship. You got to know what they like, the temperament, what you can do, what you can't do, what you can get away with. Really familiarize yourself with that person or with that bike so you can have the best experience. All right, so after test riding the Indian Sport Chief, I honestly don't know how I really feel about it. I think I need another test ride to test a few more things out. I will say the torque is significantly different in sport mode. I mean, the throttle response, it's almost too jerky. When you pull back on the throttle a little bit, you get a lot of torque. In standard mode, it's almost underpowered, it feels like. You know, it feels like there's a delay in the throttle. And so on a short 15-minute test ride, it's not really enough to really figure that out. And I think that's just a bike you have to live with for a little bit to really understand it a little more. But it's a very nice bike, great looking bike. I do like the Rogue probably more in terms of the ergonomics of it. The controls are a little more forward on the Rogue than they are on the Chief. Those are a little more mid. Also the seat, the Rogue seat has a little more cushion, so it's a lot more plush than what's on the Chief Sport. You know, the seat there it's just really kind of flat and feels hard, but the suspension does feel good with the Fox shocks on the Chief Sport. There's a lot of things to like about the Chief Sport for sure, and it's still a bike that maybe is still very desirable, but as of right now, I feel like after the first initial test ride, I'm not as thrilled about it as I was before I rode the bike, so if that means anything. But it's a bike that I wouldn't mind riding again. It wouldn't be a bike I would buy off the initial test ride. I felt like I expected more than what I got. The Rogue, you know, it's fine for what it does right now. You know, still has enough power, still light enough to just kind of throw around, and it's also a very good looking bike as well. So I don't know where this left me, but you guys that did watch, thank you for checking out the channel. I'm going to be posting more videos, so stay tuned. Peace.